My name is Andrus. I'm head of marketing at Pipedrive. I wanted to share some kind of lessons learned, stories of business growth and personal growth of growing Pipedrive to more than 30,000 paying customers. Tomorrow we're going to put out a piece of content that would suggest that the number is outdated, so we're not at 30,000 anymore, but the lessons still stand. Who in the room is in marketing? Please raise your hands. Well, on a good day. And who is, so the rest I guess is not, who is interested in marketing? Some of you are in the wrong room, but, so I've been in marketing, last week was my anniversary. I'm now in marketing for 20 years. I started out in traditional kind of fast-moving consumer goods, media, that sort of things. Then 8 years ago, figured it's all done in traditional marketing and switched to technology. Went to work for Skype, first in Estonia, then in London for almost 5 years, and then have been working with startups ever since. The logos here on this screen, some of them you don't recognize, some of the logos, actually most of the logos, because if you work with startups, by definition, you don't know them yet or anymore. And also, they are based usually 5,000 miles east, but hopefully you recognize some of them. The logos are in T-shaped, and that's not an accident. So I like to think I'm a T-shaped marketer. Not my body build, but really, I know a little bit about different marketing functions and disciplines, but I'm deep in content marketing and that sort of world. I try to stay away from that today, but I might touch content marketing once or twice. Who knows Pipedrive? Okay. We have so we've done some things well. Some of you know us. So we have a sales CRM app, which makes it super easy to get organized and close deals. We are at more than 30,000 paying customers. We are 240 people in the team. I run a 20-person marketing team. We raised 30 million, but our revenues are strong enough that we were in the Inc. 500 as the 14th fastest growing software company last year. So doing good on many fronts. And I've been in Pipedrive since almost day one, and I've had the same title as well. But looking back, it seems I've had 4 different jobs in 4 different companies. So we have 4 different phases of marketing at Pipedrive, and I want to kind of excuse myself or pardon myself for using a war metaphor for marketing. I don't think that customers are the enemy. In fact, I would suggest the opposite is true, but I haven't found a better metaphor than war in this context. So the different stages of Pipedrive marketing have been first getting people to use the product, just giving us a go. It was a lot like hand-to-hand combat, one by one, trying to wrestle people to give us a go and give us their feedback. Once we had product market fit, we needed to get many customers with the one effort. So in kind of war metaphor terms, we needed machine guns. At some point, we ran out of hands to manage machine guns, so we started general mobilization, just building the team. And then lastly, this last stage is kind of currently where we currently are, and the marketing resembles looking at a Bond villain who sits in that chair with a cat in his lap or her lap, and when they need to launch a new product or a new market or a new language, they press a button and some resources fly across the oceans to do something. And we've had very different lessons in these very different contexts, and hopefully some of you is relevant to most of you. Some of that is relevant to most of you. So first, hand-to-hand combat. We launched just over 6 years ago in Tallinn, Estonia, where the company is from, and where the biggest office is still based. And during the private beta period, we found out that customers loved the minimal product we had built. That they were raving about the feedback. We thought, oh, we're off to the races. We have a great product. We have product market fit. Let's just start kind of getting customer orders and signups. Unfortunately, the growth didn't follow. We were getting maybe 20 or 30 customers per month for the first 4 or 5 months, and at this pace, it would have taken us 8 years to make back the investment. So clearly, something was off. We needed to do something. And the hypothesis was that if you have 20, or like I think at that stage, 100 customers in Estonia, we are not very talkative people. We are probably if you find the most silent person in a room, it's probably an Estonian. So the hypothesis was that perhaps it's not enough to have happy customers in a kind of small remote corner of Northern Europe. And then we started pitching, hustling in Europe and also in US to get into an incubator accelerator, to get the word out, to plant the product in the hands of the right type of customers. So we got as a result of that, we got into AngelPad. We got connected with AppSumo. We made an AppSumo promotion. Robert Scoble, who was a tech blogger, stumbled into the AngelPad office one day and shot a video about us, which got 6,000 something views, which wouldn't be anything today, but back then when we had 100 customers, it was a big deal for us. And as a result, the product got in the hands of customers, not just in Estonia and kind of Northern Europe, but also in the Silicon Valley here, basically. And that was visible in numbers as well. So I scaled down the earlier graph into the lower charts. And really, the second lesson that we learned in growing Pipedrive was that having a great product is just a start, and you really need to get it in the hands of the right kind of customers, which worked for us, and we were off to the races. And then, at the end of 2011, we were ready to develop some kind of weapons of mass distribution or kind of scalable marketing channels. And we tried everything except for direct TV and radio. Like we tried every single marketing tactic, I think, in the next 18 months. And if I could scroll back time, I would only do two things. I would focus on two things. When I asked our customers later on during a research project, how did they hear about Pipedrive, then it's mostly recommendations, and it's being findable. So I don't know if you know Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. There's a thing called a hedgehog strategy, doing one thing really well. I think startups need to do two things really well. So two hedgehog strategy, being findable and getting recommendations. I'll go into some detail with both of them. We built the referrals program early on. And of course, referrals mainly come from having a great product, but then there's things you can do on top of that, like incentives, motivations, triggers to get people to recommend you. We built a referral program early on, which gave customers free credits if they recommended Pipedrive. And analyzing the product later, I made a survey to people amongst people that had used the program, and asked them, so why did they use the program? Why did they recommend us? And the referral scheme was almost not visible in the answers, as you can see here. So people really recommended Pipedrive because they liked the product or because they wanted to help a friend. And ever since learning that, we've kept the main focus on the referral program on the actual act of recommendation. Otherwise, this recommendation, which comes from a good place, can come across as a transaction. So this has worked well for us in terms of messaging and finding the right triggers and times to communicate the program. And speaking of times, the next data point, the next lesson we learned about referral programs was it really makes sense to be early. This is actual usage of the referral program, both invites sent and invites accepted. Majority of invites happens in the first 2 days of Pipedrive usage, which makes sense because this is a time where people are most likely to click around in the app, discover all the features, and discover also the referral program. There's never as good of a time in terms of number of people using the program than in the first 2 days. There's another bump here around day 30, which is just end of the trial period. But normally that bump wouldn't exist. So this was the first hedgehog, lessons learned in getting referrals. And content marketing was definitely a key part of being findable. And we've learned that there's only two ways to do content marketing: the right way and the wrong way. Or more specifically, actually, what I mean by that, I think there's different ways to break things into two. We learned that we tried to do content that goes viral, that gets seen by tens of thousands, of hundreds of thousands, or millions of people, and we discovered that we're not very good at that. And then we found that if you if you do keyword research, if you look at the keyword popularity, difficulty, and relevance to you, and just like it's a very mathematical process of looking at all the different things that people could search in your field, and then deciding what you need to based on these three things, what kind of comes out on top. That's really the basis of sustainable and effective content strategy. So this table, I don't know, can you see this table in the back? But basically, we looked at 20 of our best performing posts across two dimensions. First is the post targeting a specific keyword, like how to set sales goals, for instance. And secondly, was the post really high quality or not? Some of the posts we've done over the years are just kind of, we have had less time, or we used a contractor outsourced, just less high quality. And we found that it's more important that the post targets a specific keyword than content quality. Obviously, some posts we have written, or some pieces of content, it's just like you have this idea for like a sales philosophy or a sales insights, and you want to get it out there, even if it doesn't target a specific keyword. And these have performed very well as well. But yeah, content targeting a specific keyword trumps content quality, if that makes sense. But don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating that that we should kind of forget content quality, because every now and then we felt that this idea or methodology or framework is just so useful for salespeople. We want to get it out there. So we've done content projects which last for weeks, which just takes weeks to prepare, and this is the only way to get kind of people genuinely excited about you in social media, also sign up to the app later, and kind of build goodwill among the target audience. This is for an email course we built, which we call Sales Pipeline Academy. Not targeting a specific keyword. Nobody's searching for an email sales course, but it was worth getting it out there and getting it live. And the recent lesson we learned during the last year and a half is that some of the best marketers are not marketers, unfortunately. So we had built integrations with the kind of good people over at Google very early on in the Pipedrive's lifecycle. We built an mini integration with Google Chrome Web Store and Google Apps Marketplace back then, which is now G Suite. And this is the blue and orange line down here. We're just slowly ticking along, giving us a small number of leads, small but kind of notable number of leads every month. We looked at it a year and a half ago and thought maybe we should do more than just build an integration and passively watch it work. So we then formed a team of growth engineers who started building mini apps and content projects and integrations with a view just to only drive growth. And it took a while. It took 6 months for the team to ramp up. In the first 18 months, we built one kind of really good integration, which is one really good project, which is the yellow bars there, and many small projects. And I think due to the nature of that, I think this channel, that if you build something which gets listed in an integrations marketplace, you more than cover your costs, even if this thing you build is not a huge hit. So you can even kind of, it's a hugely profitable endeavor, even if you don't generate these yellow bar-like results every time. And currently, we now have 3 engineering teams working committed to marketing, which I think is pretty unique. So we have one team which works on mini apps integrations, one team which works on website, and one team which works on onboarding. And each engineering team is committed to marketing, led by a marketer or marketing PM. Engineers report up to engineering. Works pretty well. So as I mentioned earlier, at some point we started running out of hands to man the different machine guns, and we wanted to hire fast. I think after raising our A round in August of in spring of 2015, we wanted to hire fast and build a team fast. And we learned that in hiring fast, we learned that ideas became worthless. Before that, before we started hiring fast, and we were building these kind of machine guns or trying to find scalable channels, it was all about ideas. Like we needed to find the next best idea, the next cunning plan, the next kind of content piece idea or something. And then as we started hiring more faster, we learned that if you can have a great idea, but you have the wrong person or the wrong team working on it, it will turn into dust. Or you can have an average idea and you have the right person or the right team working on it, it will just it will turn into a golden goose, which just keeps on laying golden eggs. So ideas were worthless, and every problem that I had or we had seemed to look like a hiring problem. That was true in marketing and also elsewhere as well. Surprisingly, I found myself stopping marketing for a while at least, and then going fully into recruiter mode, because I knew that the results we get in marketing are a function of not marketing, but a function of hiring. This photo is taken at our offsite in the summer 2015. We're not burning books, we're not burning voodoo dolls of competitor names, which we're doing firewalking as an offsite. I would strongly recommend doing firewalking at the company retreat. It's an acquired taste. Not everybody likes it, but those who liked it write it a lot. And then second thing in relation to hiring, which I learned, was that it's difficult to find good people, but finding good people is just a start. Because if you, and my lesson, the example I want to give is, I heard that somebody who was like heading an important sub-marketing team, so a smart guy has done this work for years before that, experienced, good communicator, good team member. But his worldview about his ideology, his fundamental principles about that function were such that you can't really measure this function on business metrics and business goals. You can just more maybe measure traffic and engagement and softer things. And we tried for a year to kind of align our worldviews. Me wanting to push for business results, sign-ups and new paying customers, him saying it's unmeasurable, you should be happy measuring just engagement and traffic. And we couldn't make it work. So between the two, I consider him a smart person, I consider myself a smart person on a good day. But we couldn't work out because we had fundamental differences in how to approach this subject. So now what I've done ever since is when you find a good person, make sure you take an hour and a half or 2 hours, talk about your expectations for this role, for the function, and vice versa. And that has kind of, I think, avoided a lot of heartbreak down the line. Final stage. At some point about a year ago, I learned that as we hire more people, we didn't start to move faster, because people started to bump into each other much more. So actually, we started moving slower, both in marketing and also other teams. And this is a quote from Brian Balfour, who was a VP of growth over at HubSpot, is now running Reforge. He's put it well. I think the shortest possible quote on that is that the quality, like the growth you can have is a function of the quality of the people and quality of processes. So I've been in process design ever since I kind of had that realization. And let me give you a few examples of that. So my job was then not just to find great people and manage expectations, but also make sure that they have swing lanes cut out of them, and they have the necessary information and support from other teams. This is Google's, like I talked about the importance of being findable. This is a Google search result, not the latest design, but slightly a few versions below for best CRM, which is a term we learned that people use to discover CRM apps. And the aim was total visibility. So we wanted to be visible on all the 10 places which come up in the free listings, and also we want to be listed as an ad placement there. In order to be listed here, you need good SEM, in order to be listed here, you maybe need PR outreach. To be listed here, you need good partnerships. In order to be listed here, you needed kind of directory management, review management type of functionality. And it took a lot of work, and also like you needed content people, SEO people, a lot of different people in different teams needed to work together in order for us to be omnipresent on this on these searches. A lot of coordination. So we got the job done. Today, if you search for best CRM, I think we are relatively visible on that page in terms of like wherever you click, you'll probably find us on that page. A lot of hassle, a lot of coordination, almost like too painful to get this live. So the lesson we learned is we'll scrap the kind of different sub-teams of content and paid and PR. Now we have reorganized marketing. We have acquisition team whose job it is for us to get us on this page. And so within that team, it's easier to move information around. It's easier to tie people's motivations and bonuses to getting listed there. So tearing down walls was a good way for us to start moving faster. Make sense? Excellent. And another lesson we learned in many teams was that, again, we learned that ideas are worthless. So that if you ramp up speed and volume of people, then you really need to make sure that you're working on the right thing. And we were previously looking for the killer idea to take us to the next place in growth. And there was too much subjectivity around picking what to work on. And we ended up working on the wrong things very often. So the framework we picked was just add ICE. And ICE is a very simple assessment of every possible project, which is I for impact, C for confidence in the impact, and E for effort. Just a few theoretical examples here. Now this kind of growth engineering team, which I mentioned, they have a quarterly ICE prioritization process. Anybody can submit ideas. They run it through the ICE methodology, and then an answer pops out. If the team responsible for web conversion has to pick what to work on next, they run it through this process. Recently, a new colleague joined. One of the person who was supposed to report to him said to me that, all right, I should prepare my to-do list for this new hire, and I'll also ICE it for him so he can understand what's more important. And when I heard that, I learned that, all right, we have fully kind of embraced this ICE framework, and if people are using that in kind of casual language, that I think is a good sign that this kind of this way of prioritizing things really works for you, really works for us. Final lesson what I wanted to share with you today is I also wanted to get out of the war metaphor. So end of the war metaphor. Actually, marketing and growing a SaaS company is not like war at all. It is like sailing. And there's at least two ways for why marketing a SaaS company is like sailing. One is that in a yachting race, you can always see where your competitors are. Either they are ahead of you or behind you, but it's very easy to see where they are. Same, I guess, in marketing and market share. And I think the same is true in yachting and marketing, is that you can never win if you only look at your competitors. You should look at where the wind is blowing. That's the best way to win it. You also have to look at be mindful of what the competitors are doing. You have to, there's some feature parity things, there's obvious channels you need to use. So for us, I think the things we do around content marketing and paid, we do that because everybody else is doing that as well. And some of the things we do around, I think, growth engineering or some of the more out there things, just we're looking at, all right, the wind is blowing that way, we believe in that, let's put some resources and focus on some of the less tested things. And same for roadmap as well. Some of the things we launch are based off of customer requests and feedback. Some of it is just pure belief. In next quarter, we're going to launch something which no customers ever asked for. We just think this might be a good way to manage sales. And then another topic, I think, why marketing is very similar to yachting is that there's often no grand strategy. You can't really make the wind go faster for you only. So then it's just a matter of trimming the sails, setting the course, and then getting to the finish line. And these are all the lessons I wanted to share with you. Thank you. Yeah, sure. I think Sunir will put them up somewhere on the site. Yes. Yeah. Just repeat the question when I hear myself. Repeat the question. I can just repeat your question.
I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about what you did for recruiting, like when you just stopped kind of doing marketing practice. That's kind of like that. Okay, we're going full on recruiting. What kind of did like you just sat and interviewed people?
No, yeah. We didn't have there's no silver bullet there, I think. It's just hard. No matter who I've spoken to, it's hard for everybody. So it's just a matter of like we're like in sales, you have to put in the numbers to make sure that a certain number of deals closes. It's like that in recruiting as well. You just have to kiss a lot of frogs to find your future teammates. Is it back?
You're talking about for referrals, people are more motivated by non-monetary reasons than monetary, so you kind of refocus on that. How specifically did you make that easy to either refer the product they like or help a friend? How did you change versus a monetary conversation like 3 months ago?
So we didn't do a lot of testing. So we've done a couple of campaigns where you get more rewards if you recommend the person now. And we've seen that there's a short-term increase in invites, and even invites accepted, but they don't really convert to pay that well. So it really makes sense to go to that one level deeper and slightly more complex level of do it because you like the product or do it because you like to help a friend. Don't do it for the reward, because the reward attracts the wrong kind of behavior there. So yeah, that's my experience. All right, thank you. Feel free to email me later.